So tonight we are opening at 6:04, the Brentwood School Board work session. This is regarding our kitchen and cafeteria, basically how it works. We have a special guest tonight, Jean Pierce. Jean, we cannot thank you enough for coming to join us. It's so wonderful to finally see you. This is as close to face-to-face that I've ever been over all these years. I really appreciate you coming on tonight. Thank you. So we have, do you mind just saying hi quickly so people know who you are?
Hello.
All right. And then I'm not sure that we have any participants that we need to go around the room. Do we have any at this point in time?
No.
No. Yeah. Okay. All right. Jean, did you have a presentation to start with, or did you want us to start with questions?
Melissa, I actually put together the presentation if you want me to.
Oh, that's perfect. Thanks, Molly. Go ahead.
Okay. So we did meet with Jean. So Jean has seen this before, but let me just share my screen with you all.
Are those my buddies?
Yo, they're your buddies. We're all in quarantine right now, so.
Oh no, Molly.
I'm just trying to find my my thing to share. Okay. Oops. That's, yeah. All right. So can you all see my screen?
You can. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for the Brentwood's food service, so at year end, the food service fund cannot be in a loss position. So if there is a loss in the food service fund, the general fund has to cover it. So going back to the 18-19 school year, the cooperative absorbed the loss that year. And last year, if you remember, we started with the contract with the cooperative with the cost not to exceed $106,000, but the contract is only on expense. It does not include revenue. And in 1920, we also had a food service loss. But in 1920, the big reason for the large loss was due to the period of remote learning, which was 12 weeks where we had no food service sales, but we continued to employ the food service employee. So what we did, so you can see this, is we went back to the 18-19 school year and the 19-20 school year. So first off, in the 18-19 school year, we had a different financial software for the first half of the year. So that's why it's all zeros. And then the year to date got loaded into ADS. So that's why you see the big number in December. That is a year to date number. And you can see the loss that was absorbed by the cooperative that year was $4,334.98. So then last year, this again is a month by month of the year. And we saw a loss of $31,814. Now, again, we did not exceed the cost, but you can see the revenue was very low March, April, May, June due to the shutdown. So then,
So
sorry,
Molly,
go ahead.
can we, oh wait, I'm sorry, can you go to your next one?
So the next one is I did kind of an analysis. If we didn't have COVID, what would have happened? So we did a projection for March through June as if the virus did not exist. We basically took the average expenses from the I did the average of September, October, and January, February, knowing that there's limited school in August and holidays in November and December. But then also we do the benefits quarterly, so that's why you'll see swings up in the quarterly numbers for expenses. So had there been no COVID, with that projection using averages of previous months, we were assuming a $14,000 loss. And again, you didn't exceed the $106,000 in costs. It's because revenue is less than expense. And so again, this is a hypothetical situation. It might have been a little bit different. We just used the averages that we saw at the beginning of the year to project out. So then, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I still 100% completely don't understand. And maybe I think I might have to look back at the wording on the co-op contract. I thought the wording was a flat 106. So like, kind of like for better or for worse, we're at 106 and the co-op would take care of everything. Do you know, like if you did
that's
right.
only expense, Melissa. So if you see for the total year, we spent $95,000 or so $95,748.43. That's less than $106,000.
How is the contract worded? Do you have a copy of it?
I don't have it in front of me, but I'm almost positive it's just that we will not exceed $106,000 of expense. I do not believe it mentions revenue at all. And the reason why is we're responsible for bringing in the revenue for the lunches.
Is it, but the whole reason why we signed it was that 106. Is there any way to, I know we're in a meeting and we'll keep going, but is there any way to pull it up? Like, and Molly, this isn't directed at you. This is directed at myself. Like I'm the one that signed it and I'm concerned that I misunderstood when I signed the contract.
I don't think we fully, and I agree with you, Melissa, I don't think we fully understood what we were possibly getting ourselves into when signing that contract. I don't, because, and I really think it's because we didn't have a clear picture of what revenue was to really understand that no matter what, regardless if we had signed a contract for 106, 150, 90, whatever, we're responsible for the difference between the amount of revenue we bring in and the expense for the program.
Correct.
So I think that's the crux of the issue to me, Melissa, is that we're always operate no matter what the expense is. If we say, you know, if we say we only want to spend $50,000 a month or for the whole year for food service, if we want that to balance, then we have to make sure that the revenue that's coming in is equal to or greater than what our expenses are in order for us to break even.
Yeah. Yes.
So we will never ever break even if we don't hit what our expense is. So so really what we need to do is model what our total expenses are year after year and try to come up with a revenue number that would hit that expense. Am I kind of clear, Molly?
Yep, and I think looking at the next slide, it might make it a little bit more clear.
Okay.
So what I did is, I know you want to potentially bring the food service in-house. So what we did is we said, okay, you serve about 107 lunches per day. And right now, the parents are paying $2.90, and then the state pays 32 cents on top of that. So the 290 plus the 32 cents is 322 per meal. So what we did is we said, if you raise that 10 cents to $3, a flat $3, you're still going to get the 32 cents from the state. And so now you'll see $3.32 per meal. So for the year, I said, okay, well, let's assume 107 meals per day at $3, plus you have a certain level of snack and milk sales. And we took it for 175 school days. Your revenue would be $94,788.11. But then on expenses, if you're going to bring it in-house, we assume the Kensington cost with 2 times the food, since you have more students. And that would cost you $122,056. So bringing it in-house, you're actually looking at a loss of $27,267 with those assumptions. And the only way to really increase that would be to either increase the number of lunches you serve or increase the price. And if you increase the price too much, you're gonna decrease the amount of lunches that you actually serve. So you have to find that sweet spot.
Molly,
Can I ask just a quick question, Melissa? Am I not correct though that Kensington, like percent of sales, like the percent of kids that buy lunch is significantly higher than ours?
It is, but that would also be on the revenue side. So this is, I only did expenses for Kensington because they have 1 food service director and I believe 1 server. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's a part-time server.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Our revenue would go up significantly. I mean, if we were looking at Kensington sort of model, right? So the 122, you're saying you have taken Kensington's cost and times the food portion by 2 because more students, right? But the 107 meals per day would go up significantly based on sort of Kensington's participation rate too.
well, we didn't really take Kensington's participation rate in it. We just said that we just doubled the food cost knowing that there is a lot more students over in Brentwood. I don't know if Brentwood would serve a lot more meals if you brought it in-house or not. I don't know that.
so Molly, is that 107, is that based on this year or is that based on last year?
Jean, do you have the answer to that?
That's based on last year because this year all meals are free currently through the USDA. And because you have less population in the building, so you're not roughly doing 107 meals per day. Just because of the enrollment in the building.
When you say last year, are you talking COVID, like half the year with COVID? So do we have any, so do we know what that cost was the year before? Because that would be a normal.
What the average number of kids eating? No, I don't have those numbers.
That's kind of an I don't want to say an unfair number, but it's kind of a erroneous number if that's only half. Do you know what I'm saying?
But it was, Scott, it was like the monthly between September and February. You know what I'm saying? So between that, you can't count the other
yeah. I understand now. Sorry.
I think though, I would love to see what those numbers look like when we were doing it in-house, because it wasn't that long ago. Was it 3-4 years ago, maybe? I feel like it would be interesting to see, were those numbers consistent when we were doing it in-house, or did we kind of take a nosedive, or did we increase when we started to contract out?
I have a sneaking suspicion, Melissa, they probably don't have that data.
I'm disappointed that we don't have more data though.
I would almost have to ask Michelle, because back then we would have been in SunGard, I believe, which, Michelle, would we even have that from SunGard?
And it's not something that we, that Jean was a part of when we had the in-house person. You know what I'm saying? So it's not something that the co-op or the Jean's group would have those numbers. So, and on Allison's point, I don't know if you can compare, you know, just because you bring it out in-house that you're automatically going to have more participation. I mean, I would bet, and I don't know this off the top of my head, but it'd be very similar meals to the meals that are going on at our school right now. I mean, I would just guess. Molly, am I right?
That prior was, the change was that the meals were meeting the regulations of the Healthy Hungry Free Kid Act. So child nutrition is a program of law, which requires us to serve items and meet the need of the regulations that are set forth by the USDA. And that's one of the things that had to take place with the changeover, was adhering to the federal guidelines, so that SAU 16 as a whole is in compliance when we get reviewed through the state of New Hampshire. So I can tell you that much, that we do have to follow very strict guidelines.
Chris, when you collected the data last summer, though, I am pretty sure that the Kensington participation data was very high, like upwards of like 80% of students were buying lunch.
That is correct.
And I mean, I'm not supportive of changing the food program if we're not improving it. My motivation, and it's been my motivation for years, is that, you know, we have seen other schools in the SAU 16 do some pretty cool food programs in-house. And that has always been my motivation, is to sort of try to mimic what they have been doing. I mean, I know right now, like I know East Kingston's gone on to the Kensington, and they do like special meals like for teachers and staff that are like different than the kid food, which I know like is pretty popular. I don't know.
So Allison, I love everything that you were saying. I feel like that was kind of our passion for the entire board. I don't want to speak for everyone, but I kind of felt that's where we've been at. I do want to ask another question, please, if I could just go back to the financials before I forget, because I'm nervous about it. What does that mean for this year if right now we're on the federal program? I don't remember what it was, $4 per student or something like that until the money runs out and or the end of the year. How is that impacting our revenue? Is that money coming to the school, or does it not count for us? Like, are we going to be looking at a big loss at the end of this year too?
Jean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have all the revenue and expense in the cooperative. Well, no, sorry, not for Brentwood, because Brentwood's been back this whole time.
No, everything's being put through the cooperative, because the kitchen isn't open at your school. If we open your kitchen currently, then we'd have to place the employees in there. And with the way things are, everything would still have to be packaged, and the expense would exceed the number of meals you're doing. And we're not getting $4 a meal. We're actually getting the $3.22.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought I had in my notes. I thought I had in my notes.
No, during this last in March, we fell under a different program and we received more money. This year, when they put the waiver in, because each district is open, or each district is serving their students only. So every district feeds only the students that attend their district. We fall under a different federal program, and the rate is different.
Okay. Would it be possible to tell me how many students at Swayze right now are buying today?
Nobody's buying because everything is free.
But you understand what I'm saying.
The number of students that are ordering right now, it varies because we have grades that shut down, classrooms that shut down, attendance, but we're averaging, let me see if I can pull one because I'm actually working November numbers. So it's anywhere from like 45 to 80, depending on what the menu is. So, and what
that in-person and remote students?
remote is strictly served from the high school, so we only track that they're enrolled under my umbrella because I can only feed students who the schools I oversee. And so remotely is all put in one list. I don't pay attention to what school they're assigned to. I only pay attention that they are enrolled in one of the districts that I'm responsible for audit purposes.
Molly, is it possible to pull down the food prices and financial impact? And I apologize, you guys will hear this throughout the meeting. I'm on an iPad, so I can only see the person who's speaking, not the whole board.
Yeah, I'll stop my share.
Thank you. So I just wanted, oh, Molly, there's two of you.
No, the other one's Michelle. She just
Oh,
signed up
cool.
for my name, I think.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Hi, Michelle. All right, so I don't want to speak for the board, so I want to start a little bit, and then I would ask please that some of the board members take over if you feel comfortable or so inclined, or if I've missed anything. My feeling is very much that it is the will of the board to try and bring this in-house, and as much as I really dislike the word robust because we hear it so much, I think that's kind of what we're looking for in the food program. And I think we understand that there may be an increase in the cost per meals, and we would probably have to cost that out. But I have a feeling if the families were happy with the meals and the children, that people may be willing to pay that extra expense. But I still don't feel as though I have a very good understanding with our contract. I understand that you've explained it over and over, but I still don't feel good about it. I'd love to please see, and I'll look through my records. I might even have it in my notebook over here, but a copy of the agreement from last year. And then I still would like to very much move forward with next year, but I think that we would probably need to see a cost analysis with a couple of different scenarios of higher costs for lunch, or maybe even a different cost for the staff. But I want to ask the board, is there more information that you're looking for as well? I know that I'm going to have to go in front of, and I'm sorry because you get sick of hearing this, the budget committee. We're all going to have to go in front of the district in March. And I feel pretty stupid because I can't explain that contract right now. So if there's anyone else that has I'm open to anything you all have to say, please.
Do you want me to read I have the contract. Well, it was in the board packet from November.
Oh, thank you, Scott.
It says, I guess I'll just read our part where it talks about money. Well, section 3 says the SCSD shall be responsible to pay the operational cost up to $106,000 annually for food service. The Swayze School District will be financially responsible for all capital expenditures, equipment repairs, and any products needed for the operation of the program. So I think that's where it's it's not revenue. It's the other side, and
Expense.
we're not expense. Thank you.
Is that stated clearly in the contract? I mean, do you all interpret it that? Is that
Operational costs.
Brian?
I don't know. Yeah.
I do a two-screen thing where I watch this on the iPad and use my work laptop to look at documents. So I was just using my phone to forward the contract to myself while Scott was reading it out loud. So it wouldn't take a second to read it.
Yeah. Um, it does say the Exeter Regional School Board will provide the Swayze School District with an update on all students with bad, oh, well, that's students. Regional Cooperative District will send automatic communication based on information from a student database. At the end of the fiscal year, Swayze shall be responsible to pay all bad debts. Those are our responsibilities. District will have a approved charging policy, wellness policy, and working wellness committee will adhere to all federal and state regulations. Notification of parents of free and reduced meal program. Notification of classes will be gone from the building, requiring no meal service. Again, there's that line. Swayze School District shall be responsible to pay the operational cost up to $106,000 annually for food services. School district will be financially responsible for all capital expenditures, equipment repairs, and any products needed for the operation of the program.
The way if I'm being too simplistic, and Molly, please correct me. Let's say 1 year, our revenue is $106,000, but our expenses are $107,000. We wouldn't have to pay the $1,000 difference. That's how I look at it.
Yeah,
Yep.
and the contract's basically in place to protect Swayze from the cooperative running a Ruth Chris Steakhouse and charging McDonald's prices is really what the contract prevents. But it's really the responsibility of Swayze to cover the loss if the revenue is less than if revenue is less than expense.
Right, but I'll state again, Molly, that we didn't really have an understanding of the revenue side.
Mhm.
When we signed into this contract, I think we were kind of, I don't know, correct guys, back me up or tell me I'm wrong, that we weren't really fully aware of revenue.
Mhm.
Because we I mean, in all fairness, we've been asking for years for a readout and haven't really gotten information.
So this is my feeling, and I get it that at this point I'm feeling as some of you get it and I don't. But the reality is I put my name on the contract, and this has nothing to do with you, Ron, Chris, Molly. But we had to pay the co-op $31,000, which was a lot of money for our budget. It was not the intent of the contract. I would like to take the contract in the meeting minutes, and I may very well run it by the town attorney to make sure that I understand it, because I don't understand it. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's fine. But to be perfectly honest with you, no matter how much we talk about it, I just don't get it, and that's on me. So, but I want to be completely transparent with you. I don't want to have any surprises, and it has nothing to do with any of you. I want you to know that, please. Okay.
I think, Melissa, too, as far as like moving forward, I mean, even these expenses and revenues that we're seeing, like it's not the details, right, that we have been asking for. It's more than we've seen in the past, but I mean, when I joined the school board, this was, as you well know, one of my passions. So it's been 4 years now. And so even the $95,000 in expenses, like,
Oh, no, it's like tree behind him. All I heard was.
Sorry, I didn't know if somebody else was jumping in there. Besides the person, what are the other expenses? Like, how much of it is food? I mean, it's really hard to, at this point, Melissa, my sort of general gut is that we're going to have to maybe take a leap of faith in sort of how much it's going to cost us and how much revenue we can make based on the data that we have. And then, next, if we bring it in-house, we would have all of the data so that we would be able to understand it better.
That's true.
And I had a quick thought on the revenue, real quick, on projections. These are just numbers I'm pulling off the top of my head. I could be way, way off. I remember in conversations, I thought that we were around about a 57% or so take rate, or whatever you would call it, per student over the past several years. That could be wrong. But that's kind of the way my brain is working on it. And I remember I thought, who is it who has the food? Is it Kensington? Yeah.
Yes.
So Kensington, I thought, was about 85%. I would love to see hypotheticals based on an average of where we are as far as take rate. Average that in with revenue. Let's say we stayed at the same. Let's say we jumped to where Kensington is at 85, and then we found some middle ground like a 71%. So 3 different hypotheticals of revenue that we would make and how that would impact the bottom line. It should be just quick math. We could probably just do when the sheet's up in front of us. But I think if we had that, then we're making the most educated decision based upon hypotheticals. Is it just a quick thought?
All right, so we are 3 minutes into our next board meeting and we need to go. I want to confirm with the board. Would you like to see what Thad has asked for? And if so, is there anything else that you would like to see before we wrap up this workshop?
I mean, I think it would be helpful, Melissa, to see in the expenses, like how much is the staff, right? How much is fixed expense and how much is food?
So that's all going to be in the budget document that's in your board pack.
Sorry,
So the food service fund is the very end of your budget document that's in your board pack, or I should say sent out this morning, because you have your general fund and the food service fund. So everything you're asking for, Allison, has already been sent out in that.
Okay.
Well, Melissa, we do have cafeteria kitchen as an agenda item in our public meeting. Can I make a recommendation that we close this work session so that we can move into the public hearing on based on RSA 198-20, and then we can go into our school board meeting after that public hearing.
Did you say you wanted to go into non-public?
Nope, we need to have a public hearing based on the money that we were receiving for this.
Oh.
So that's what we're waiting for. So the public has the ability to weigh in on that. So I don't want to hold them up much longer because we do have this as an agenda item, so we can revisit it during our regularly scheduled school board meeting.
All right, just quickly, are you okay to move us into that public hearing since you've just stated what the RSA is?
Sure.
All right. At this point in time, though, I do want to say, I know that we're excited to consider a new program. I know we're frustrated because we're trying to understand the numbers, but I do want to say, Chris, Molly, Jean, we're very appreciative that you took the time to hop on this call with us. We know your time is valuable and you've been very busy at the SAU level. And I just want to say that we do appreciate you definitely taking the time to hop on. Thank you. Thank you so very much.
Absolutely.
And I would say with that, why don't we go ahead and we'll close this and then we'll move into our public hearing.
Thank you, Melissa. So anybody that's in the public that's listening, we had gotten guidance. We talked about this back in our November meeting. When we found out that FEMA money was not going to be coming to us, the governor created a supplemental public school response fund. And then he calculated that money based on our student enrollment from last year at $200 a student. Which we had 295 students, and Brentwood would be receiving a check for $59,000. For us to accept that money, we had to hold a public hearing, which we're doing now, because these are expenses that occurred between March 1st and go up until December 30th of this year. There had to be items that were not previously budgeted in any of our budgets. They had to address urgent COVID-19 needs, and as I said, not only have to be used, but they had to be ordered. They have to be in use by December 30th. So if we bought computers, they would have to. We couldn't buy them today, and we need to buy them and have them in use by December 30th. So with that said, we have been calculating, and I say we, it's really Molly and Michelle have been digging into our expenses from March up until today, And we have totaled $75,749.40 in expenses that are related to the supplemental response fund. So we're eligible to have that $59,000, and it's very apparent that we've been spending that money towards what this fund is for. That leaves us with a difference of $16,749. We have applied for the supplemental response fund number 2. That goes with the commissioner. That's a $10 million fund for the entire state of New Hampshire. So we have put our grant in. We're supposed to find out this week how much more we can qualify for under that grant. But did just wanted to alert the board and also the residents of Brentwood how we spent this money and why we spent this money. And just to give you some big, quick picture expenses. Out of that expenditure, about $45,000 of it went to facilities, PPE, cleaning supplies, cleaning materials. We had $13,000 an additional staffing to pay for extra cleaning that's occurring at Swayze, and then $16,000 roughly for contracted services in regards to technology or technology upgrades to support remote learning, but also in-person learning. So we have receipts for all of that we will provide when this needs to be audited, but that it does fill into this category. So that is the purpose of the public hearing. I wanted to inform the board, also inform the residents of what we have spent it on and why, and then be able to hear any input that the public may have at this time. Before I do that, I turn it over to the board. Any questions that they may have of myself, Ron, Molly, or Michelle?
Does anyone have any questions?
I don't have any questions.
I don't.
This being a public hearing, do we need to open up the chat?
Yeah, if the public has comments, we just need to hear their comments, and then we can discuss any of the comments they have during our regularly scheduled board meeting. We do not have to respond back to them during this public hearing session.
Okay. And how long do we leave that open?
That is at the discretion of the board.
All right.
That chat is
gonna-
open.
Oh, go ahead. It's
chat
open
is
now, correct? Okay. I'm just gonna say, since we have an entire agenda to get through and we have several items we need to get through, I'm gonna say, if it's all right with the board, I'd really like to say like a 5 to 7 minute limit. And if we start to see that chat is really full, then that's fine, we can extend it. But I just think based on our history with these public hearings, we don't really get very much public input. So I'd like to respect and honor the time of the board, our participants, and those that have logged on.
Sounds good to me.
Well, on a positive note, I really hope with that second 10 million that they okay our request, because we have been in person for 5 days since September. That's gotta be positive, right?
It's-
In our favor.
Yeah, the only issue is that $10 million, Melissa, if it exceeds $10 million by what's being requested from all of the different schools in the state, it gets appropriated based on a percentage. So even though we have 16,000, which is significant, we may not get the whole thing. If the state of New Hampshire does not ask for the whole 10 million, because it was a different process, then we would hopefully be guaranteed our 16,000 that we're over.
So we do have something in the chat. And this is from Liz Faria. I only heard a little of this. The 59,000 is going to be accepted. Did you say that the additional 15 would be? Do we want Chris or Molly to answer that?
I can answer that. Yes, we put all of the $16,749.40 into the second round of the supplemental public school response fund that was sent to us by the governor and the commissioner of education. So that money that's overspent, the 59,000, is in that grant that's being reviewed at the in Concord this week.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I've been trying to watch the clock. Has it really only been like 3 minutes? It has, hasn't it? Well, Ron, your Christmas tree looks really nice.
Thanks, Melissa.
Welcome. All right, and we have one more question from Liz Faria. So we've put in everything we could have to be reimbursed.
Correct.
Yeah, we scrubbed the financials really hard.
You did. Liz, I think Liz heard that because she's been on a lot of the meetings because you mentioned it in detail. Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you, Liz. She mentioned that this sounds good. So that's wonderful. All right. So we are at the 5-minute mark and it looks as though we have not heard from any other folks. So I think that we're safe to go ahead and close this public hearing at this point in time. Do we just close it, Chris, or do we need a motion?
You have to take a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay. May I have a motion, please, to go ahead and close this public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Allison. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And we'll do a roll call, please. Scott?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Allison?
Aye.
Thad?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. It is now 6:44, and we are going to call this meeting to order. It is the December Brentwood School Board meeting. And if you could, Ron, I'm so going to put you on the spot. Guys, I'm totally prepared this time. Look, can we do the pledge? Can we do the Pledge of Allegiance? I just feel so wrong not doing it.
Of course.
Do you mind leading us? Because I love it when I hear you on Fridays.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I got to stand up though.
Okay, perfect. Oh, before anybody stands up, make sure you don't have pajama bottoms on.
I'll stand behind my chair.
Okay.
Everybody, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I just wanted to let you know, I want to give everyone the heads up that at the end of this meeting, we will be going into non-public session. And that is because we are in the midst of union negotiations and we'll have to discuss that in non-public, please. Next, I'd like to move on to the approval of the minutes. Does anybody have anything?
I did.
Okay, go ahead, please, Allison.
No, I didn't have anything.
Oh, you didn't, I'm sorry. Okay, I have, I don't want to disappoint you guys. I have a couple of quick things. Number one, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, number one, the first thing was page, number 5, excuse me, on page 1, approval of minutes. This is from last time. And it says under number 5, 5.4, see how it says on the last line, strat poll, not straw poll? Like that was corrected to the right thing, right? It just confused me the way I saw that. You see that, right?
Mhm.
All right. And then the next one, page 2, under number 7, second sentence, last word. We mentioned voting at Swayze. Should Swayze be capitalized? Okay. That same area, the very last sentence, Mr. Q noted that he is not sure that he is able to not offer no lunch. Oh, that does make sense, maybe. Mr. Q knows.
No, I had that too, actually. Drop not or no.
Not, right? Okay. All right, perfect. Okay, thank you. All right. And then I think that's all I had. Did anybody else have anything?
I had two quick things.
Yes.
Number 4, 4.1. Ms. Litchfield asked if they could change the title of the 23-19 school board. So that's, I think it's 2019 rather than 23-19.
Oh my goodness. Thanks.
Or if you want to change something 300 years in the future, that's not going to bother me. And then on the bottom of that same page, approval of minutes 5.5, it notes that I abstained from the October minutes as I was absent, but I attended the October meeting. It was the September 10th meetings that I was not able to vote on because I had a conflict and missed that meeting.
Okay. Okay, perfect. If we don't have anything else, could I get a motion, please, to approve the meeting minutes from Monday, November 2nd as amended?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Thad. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Brian. We'll do roll call. Scott?
Accept.
Brian?
Okay.
Aye.
Allison?
Aye.
Thad?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Thank you. All right, and then next is our kitchen cafeteria discussion. Is that going to be Molly or Chris?
Just to know if you had anything else from our work session that you wanted to discuss. And obviously, I think I just need to hear Thad's recommendation again of what he would like to see for our next meeting and what you would like for our January meeting.
I just had a question from Molly. You said in the workshop, you had said when Allison had asked for looking for the information, are you talking about the budget amounts in the current fiscal statement?
So
Is where we should look?
well, yeah, so at the bottom of the financial is the food service fund. So I
Right.
think what Allison was looking for was the breakout of staff costs versus food costs. So in the columns of the financial, I believe it had the prior year's actuals as well as prior year budget and then what the proposed budget is for next year.
Okay, so we should not look at the financial summary, but we should look at the budget development.
Correct, yep. So
Section?
the
Okay.
yep.
Yeah, Scott, at the bottom, it tells us
Yeah.
that there's like $26,000 worth of actual food purchased.
Right. I was looking at the statement versus the development. That's all. So that's why.
Yeah, and what we can do is probably run, we could run a similar report for more years. So I know last year with COVID, it was kind of unique. So we could do something from the prior year as well.
Did anyone have anything else? No. Okay. All right, thank you. We can move on to the Supplemental Public School Response Fund.
Again, that was just if we had any further comments from the public hearing. And I think we've answered all those, so we can move right over that, Melissa.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Chris. Now that we're moving on to business and the financials, Chris, why don't we we're going to open up the chat function for a few minutes. Public input is not until number 11. I know last time we had some people state that they feel like they didn't have enough time to put in questions or comments. So we're going to go ahead and put that out there. I just want to remind everyone that we're prepared for the meeting, but we may not always be prepared for the questions that you've asked. We may need to research them. So I can't promise that we would be able to get back to you tonight on any and all of your input and questions. But please know that if we are not able to get back to you tonight during this meeting, that we will get back to you in the next couple of days with the information that you're looking for. Do you want to go ahead, Molly, with the financials and manifests?
Sure. So first, the manifest, we will be sending those via email. and for your review and approval. For the financial, it was showing unencumbered of $224,313. So I do think we're in a good spot. Again, that report was printed on November 30th, and that does include everything that we are aware of to be encumbered. So as we progress through the year, the actuals will grow, as so will the encumbrances if we are made aware of additional expenditures. Now, what's not in there is the supplemental money. So while we show an available $224,313, we do have that additional, I believe it's $76,000 coming to us. So we would need to add that to the 224 if we receive the full amount.
Okay, so I had a question on the financial, which I think has been answered in black and white, but I think I would be remiss if I still didn't ask it. So what I would like to do, if it's all right with everyone on this call, number 9, personnel, I would please like to move that agenda item up to right now, just so that we could discuss it. Chris or Ron, did you want to go ahead and share this news? I know I don't want to.
That's definitely Ron's to share.
Okay.
And I think I know your question, and that's exactly the answer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we got notification from 3 very dedicated and talented teachers that they are going to retire at the end of this school year. The first one I received from Mr. Schroeder. And the second notice was from Mrs. Swayze, and the third from Mrs. Carson. Known these teachers almost 10 years now, and can vouch for their creativity, their hard work. They're going to be missed and impossible to replace. Each of them very unique and has done so much for so many kids in Brentwood through the years. So it's a big loss, but I'm happy for them for the next step, and appreciate everything they're doing right now this year, as it's been so challenging. So that's the news.
I feel like it's bittersweet, Ron, because I feel exactly the same way. We've been so incredibly blessed to have them for so long, and I wish them well on the next stage of their life and all that they have to look forward to. But there is that part of me that selfishly just wants to hang on to them. And I just want to remind them that, Mrs. Marcello decided to come back. So, just a friendly reminder, if they miss you, Ron, and the kids, that there's a place for them, right?
Oh yeah, door's open. That's right.
Thank you. Thank you.
You.
Does anyone else on the board, would you like to say anything at this point in time? I know it's emotional.
They will definitely be missed.
Yeah, it's such a loss for our community. Yeah, very special people.
Concur.
I would please ask too that when the meeting minutes are typed up, I would really please like if you could reflect some of Ron's comments and the board's comments, so that we could honor these folks that have been with us for so long and done so much for us. And then my next question, and Molly, you're pretty sure you answered it. It looks as though you did provide for the retirements in the, oh, wait a minute, but that's the 2021. Yeah, that's this year. So you did provide for that 63,000, correct?
Yeah, so we included the retirement because they gave their notice prior to December 1st.
And we're still looking at having money left over this year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Nice work, Molly. It was like, that's great news.
I don't work magic, but
Take it. Take the compliment. You did good. All right. And
did
then,
anybody else have any questions on the financials?
yeah.
Okay.
No, we're knock on wood, we're doing good. The draft budget review for FY 2022. Okay, so I wanted to discuss that with the board. And I want to say that I can't act in a vacuum on my own, right? We are all a team and we work as five, so I will defer to you if you disagree in any way. But I do know that Ron and Chris and Molly, Michelle, you all came in with an increase that was, I think it was about 2.7%. I know you worked very hard for that. And I do want to repeat that, the state has passed on another, several percentage points for us to handle retirement. We have a 2.6% increase for the teachers. And I'd like to point out that we did as a town vote on that as a warrant article. And all our teachers, they're working really hard this year. Not that they aren't all across the country, don't misunderstand me, but we've got our teachers coming in person and doing remote. And Ron, I know you're not on that contract, but I would be remiss if I didn't say what an excellent job you're doing as well. Thank you. Thank you to everyone who's there. So I just want to point out that that also, that 2.6 would be part of the increase. And finally, the health insurance that came through the guaranteed maximum rate at a 6.5%. In light of all of that, I think that you did an excellent job coming in with just a 2.7 increase. And I did ask you last time if you could get it under 2%. And Chris and Ron, I give you credit because you listened to that and you went back to the drawing board and you tried to figure that out. But I'd like to say that I have concerns because it looks as though we would have to do some major cuts in programming. And that's not what Swayze's all about. We don't want to cut a media specialist. We don't want to cut preschool. It's not what we're all about. We're a town built around a school. We have an excellent school. We have the lowest cost per student within the SAU. I believe in our budget. I believe in our staff. I support the budget at the 2.7, and that is what I would like to put forth to the budget committee and to the taxpayers in March. So I wanted to put that out there to the board. Now, I want you to understand that if you in any way want to override that, I completely respect that. We'll open up discussion and I will support whatever the majority would like to vote for. So at this point, I'd like to please open up the floor.
Melissa, I think I said this in November. I do not want us to cut programs. And I think that in addition to all of the things that you just mentioned that support that, the very, controlled increase are the supplies, the extra supplies that the school, needs to prepare for under the circumstances that we're living in today. Hopefully next year is different, but those things have to be budgeted here. So I am in full support of not cutting programming and proposing the 2.74, I think it is.
I would stand in agreement too. I think the team did a great job of trying to hit that point. I think, as we well know, it's typically usually contractual stuff that's in that thing, and there's no extra fluff. And to Allison's point, we need to make sure that the school is prepared for the unknown of what's going to be coming down the road, because we just don't know. And we can't afford to be cutting any programs or anything like that. So I'm in full agreement with going with the 2.74.
Yeah,
Melissa,
I would
also add, in November, we had an opportunity to take money back, right? And we all were in agreement that we thought we could work this year without touching that money. And just to, I think that we have proven that we return as much as we can reasonably return running the school the way it should. We don't spend that extra money. So I just want to add that.
I would agree. Thank you for that point, Allison. I completely forgot to mention that. Thank you. Thad, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say there is a season for everything, and this is not the season to be cutting programs. I think there's been enough of losses, in the process of our students and the extra work and everything that's going on. So, maybe for when life is back to more of whatever the new normal is, but I would strongly agree that cutting programs is emphatically the wrong direction to go at this time.
Thank you, Thad. I think that's another really excellent point. Thank you. Okay, so at this point in time, I would like to please entertain a motion to put forth a budget of $6,070,447.94. Do I have a motion?
Melissa, I'll make the motion for that amount that you just so eloquently stated.
Thank you, Scott. No, Scott, you have to repeat it.
No.
Just kidding. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll give it, is it all right if I give it to Brian? I don't know that he's spoken up tonight. I'm going to give the second to Brian.
I always give it to Brian.
Or do you want it? Unless you want it,
No.
Thad. Thad's been working out, Brian. You don't want to mess with him.
All right.
It's been a bad week. It's Brian. He's smarter than me.
All right, I'm going to go around the room. Brian?
Aye.
Allison?
Aye.
Thad?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. But I don't see Ron smiling. Ron, you should be happy.
I'm ecstatic on the inside. I'm trying to be very, calm, professional.
Okay.
I'm very pleased. Thank you.
Poker face. Okay. All right. So next we have on our agenda, do we have next? First of all, before we do that, actually, I think it was the meeting places, right? But I want to ask you a question. Not that I want to add any more meetings, but sometimes before we meet the budget committee, depending on what our budget is, we have met or we have scheduled a meeting just in case to meet in the Sanborn room at the town hall for 20 minutes or so prior to presenting to the budget committee. How would you all feel about us just putting that on the calendar and posting it in case we do need to talk? That way we're legal, it's good. And if we don't need it, I'm sure we can cancel it, but I'm just thinking that maybe it would be good for us to plan ahead. Would you all be comfortable with that?
That's fine with me. Are we on the agenda for next week?
We're the 14th and the 21st. I'm opening up my calendar right now, okay? We are on the schedule for Monday, December 14th and for Monday, December 21st.
Okay, I just didn't know if you knew which day the school budget was being brought up.
So Allison, we're both. So we're on for initially for December 14th to present. And typically over the past couple of years, they've asked for a week to process before they make a vote. Potentially they could vote on the 14th, but just in case they don't, we are also on the agenda for Monday, the 1st.
That's fine.
Would you all be comfortable with us scheduling a meeting in the town hall a few minutes prior to the meeting?
Yes.
Anyone else? Are you all good or no? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Chris, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I have a Zoom meeting till 6:15, so if we do it at 6:30, I'll be running right in there, but I can make it at 6:30.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. All right. Let's do that then, please. And again, just reminding you, it's when we post it, it's at the town hall. And then just a heads up while we're talking about that quickly. For some reason, I had assumed that everyone knew, and that's not really a fair assumption. Melissa Hanlon has given her resignation to the budget committee, which is, I think, a huge loss for the town. I definitely think she was an asset to the budget committee. She's always been a huge supporter of Swayze. So we wish her all the best, but we're definitely going to miss her. It's definitely a huge loss. There were 3 people that did come forward that had asked to be appointed, and there was, they spoke publicly, and then there was a non-public session, and there was a woman by the name of Alina Arita, who has been appointed to the budget committee. She will just follow through with this particular season until March, and then at that point, I believe there'll be 3 seats open. I believe Melissa's for 1 year for the duration of her, of her seat, or her obligation, and then 2 other seats open. Keith Levitsky, I do not believe at this point in time he is running again, and Liz Faria, I am not sure if she's running. My feeling is she may run again, but I'm not 100% positive. And I'm just gonna share with you just super fast. So Alina had written in a letter to the budget committee, just stating that her family of 4 moved to Brentwood a little over a year ago. They fell in love with Brentwood for its quiet neighborhoods and friendly community. She had recently started attending public selectmen meetings, and let's see. So she became interested in joining forces to help in any capacity she could to better the town. She's a Bentley College graduate with a degree in corporate finance and accounting. And let's see, I believe she mentioned that she had 2 children. I believe the ages are 10 and 12. And so that's where we're at. So at this point in time, she's been appointed to finish out the budget season. Okay. So next on the agenda, was it for us to discuss possibly meeting in person, Chris?
Correct. We last meeting talked about, is there alternatives? So we did discuss some alternatives, but after that meeting, Tim Kremen, who is our videographer for the high school and anything else in SAU 16, contacted me and wanted to share some way that we could meet as a board, but also have the ability for the residents in Brentwood to be able to watch our meetings and be a part of it virtually. So I'm going to make Tim, I am going to turn him into a panelist. Tim, can you hear us? There he is.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep. Thanks, Tim.
Perfect. No worries. Hi. So yeah, I talked to Chris about being able to use Zoom as a camera input and being able to also have everybody there. We just use as I mentioned to Chris, we just use the Zoom as a camera input, and we keep the entire board 6 feet apart so they could be in person. And I think it would work. Actually, Chris, do you have the slides I sent you?
I do. Let me pull those up.
Sorry, but it's been a long weekend. I had lost power and
Okay. Want me to share my screen, Tim? And,
yes, if you could, that'd be great.
You can talk about it.
Yep.
Okay.
So the general idea would be the board would meet as they would normally do with any other time, with so there being table, desk, chairs, whatever, and then being 6 feet apart. The next one, Chris, please. All right. So the only thing we'd really need is to have an internet connection, a computer, and the cameras. Next one. The cameras would be set up to get the board members who are there. And then, next one, Chris. So we'd have a screen so that way the board members could see the people who are on Zoom. All right, next one, the computer would be set up for the remote, and we have another computer that would be set up for Zoom. That'd be treated as a third or fourth camera. So that way we would have the board members who are in person, plus the public, or if any of the board members want to go through Zoom, we could do that, and they would be seen on the screen as well. A little diagram of kind of how it would go with all the cameras going into a switcher, including the computer, and then from the computer, we would then use a switch or a HDMI splitter and send that to a screen so that people in the room could see who was on Zoom. Signal from the switcher, mixers, Zoom, computers, and that way what's you can still interact. And what we do is we use actually microphones that would then be sent into the computer as well, and those would become the microphones for Zoom. So you'd be talking directly to the people on the camera or at home. So what we would need is we need computer cameras, mixer, microphones are fed into the switcher, sent sent out on YouTube, Channel 13, Facebook, etc. So that way you still have it broadcast, and you can have a combination of a hybrid meeting, which would be people both in the room and on Zoom. So we have all the equipment to be able to do this. Are there any questions from the board, or?
It's in the proposal.
So again, Tim, the board would be in person, and then the audience would stay remote. So
Exactly.
therefore, we'd be keeping our numbers down, but allowing more residents from Brentwood, because that's something we've heard from our virtual meetings, is that it allows for a greater participation from our town. But also, as we're seeing numbers rise, we could still, the board meet in person with Mr. Q and members of the senior leadership team, socially distanced, as well as you, to capture it. And then that the audience would stay remote, but still could have public comment to us through the remote setting.
Exactly, yep.
And you're currently using this in other schools, or have seen this in other school districts, correct?
Yep, so currently we're using it in Newmarket. We actually used a version of this when we did the meeting back in August, where we had Dr. Ryan, yourself, and Esther in the room, and everybody else is on Zoom. So it's a model that we've practiced with. It's a model that we've done before. We have all the equipment to be able to do it. And at the end of the day, the only real thing that we would need is a strong Wi-Fi or Ethernet connection at the location where you'd want to meet.
What were we thinking for a location?
You could use the library at Swayze Central School.
Okay. So I just want to throw this out to the board. And Chris, thank you for bringing Tim in, and Tim, thank you so much for all of this.
My pleasure. I apologize. It's been I'm dealing with about an hour's worth of sleep for the past 2 days, so I apologize for that. But I want to make sure you had the information.
I'm gonna yell at Chris for not having us move you up to the top of the agenda.
Oh, he didn't know. So.
All right, cool. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tim. My question is a couple of things that I want to bring up to the board and to the senior leadership team, since we're all going to be meeting together in this room. So we'd be 6 feet apart. So as elected officials, the mask edict does not necessarily impact you. That being said, though, I am all for freedom of choice. I just would like to say that I would like us to consider, though, that if we are going to have a room full of people, other members that are uncomfortable without us wearing masks, that we would all consider, please, having a mask on out of respect for them. But my question to you is this something that you would like to move forward with in person, or would you like to continue remote for now? And I honestly, I could go either way. When it's a cold night like this and I don't have to leave the house, I kind of secretly enjoy Zoom. But I also understand the value of meeting in person. And again, like I said, I just don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. I know we all have very different viewpoints on the virus and on masks, but I would ask that we respect each other's viewpoints and we consider. So you tell me, what are your thoughts?
I would not be comfortable if we weren't wearing masks. I would say that first, that we should, if there was anybody who chose that we didn't want to wear masks, then I think that we should not do it in person. I guess I'm with you, Melissa, that like, you know, we're all volunteers and we have spent really a tremendous amount of time in board meetings this year. And there is, you know, certainly some personal value in being able to do the meetings from home. I certainly look forward to the day that we're in person again. I guess like the thing for me, and I know Chris, you stay in the office, but you know, I'm going to guess Ron has pretty long days, and doing them by Zoom allows him to go home at a little bit earlier. You know, I guess I don't have like a really strong preference one way or the other. I guess I would lean towards staying remote for a little bit longer, but
I'd agree. Certainly want to be together. I definitely think, you know, obviously we should be wearing masks. I think with the increase in cases, where we're getting into this hunker down time of the winter, I'd prefer to stay remote. Come springtime, hopefully we're in a different place. I also think about Ron and everyone else who's, you know, excuse my language, busting their asses during the day to have them be here longer or wherever than they need to be. I don't know. I'm leaning towards staying remote, but if we do go in person, I definitely would ask that everyone wear a mask.
So I would say similar to what Allison and Scott have said. I think, you know, masks would be, you know, more than appropriate. I like the symbolism of us coming back together, even in a time of, you know, trial. Although I'd like the option of Ron and other people to stay remote, just my opinion. And I guess what strikes me first is my concern for resources, just in whatever manner that it happens, that nobody who's already killing it, and whether that means our janitorial service or wherever, or however that looks like, that this does not cause any grief to anyone to come together, so that we're just, you know, in a time like this, not causing you know, a lot of problems for folks who are working hard and trying to get things you know, as close to normal for the students at the school as we can. So, but I love the idea of it. But I'll go with whatever the board says. Remote's fine. I mean, we're able to communicate well. I think outside of occasionally not being able to get on. Sorry about that. It's a little late, but you know, little glitches like that we've grown used to, and I think the board has done well in communicating, and I still feel, you know, the same way, that I'm hearing valued opinions as we do remote, and that yeah. So
I lean towards staying remote as well. And just to add something that no one else has added, it makes it easier for the minutes taker to just print out the chat function for public comment rather than write that down separately. So there's that benefit as well.
All right. So I guess that leaves me. I do want to say to all of you that I really appreciate your honesty and openness and just putting it all out there right now and sharing how you feel. And I can completely understand how you feel. In my opinion, based on everything that you have all said, and that I think it's going to be incredible when we can come together. But the good news is we get to come together twice when we go before BudCom. So see that, you're going to get your wish, Thad. That being said, I think the fact that, in my opinion, we're trying to keep Swayze clean. We are getting into cold and flu season. I know, and I'm fine with wearing a mask to the meetings, but it just seems to me that the preference would be remote. And I would suggest at this point in time that why don't we stay remote and revisit it later on. But Tim, we so appreciate everything that you have said, and we definitely want to utilize everything that you have stated. We're just kind of putting it off maybe till the spring, if that.
Oh,
but
yeah, absolutely. And that's the whole point, is I want to make sure that the board had the option if they wanted, and the option is on the table for whenever needed.
Okay, we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Do you all think that we just continue to go Zoom, or do you think we should do a motion that we continue to go Zoom? Does anyone feel strongly either way about how we should handle that?
I don't think we need a motion, do we?
All right.
I agree.
I think, Melissa, I don't know, maybe just a touch point every month, every meeting that we have, just to say, because things could dramatically change in a month, 2 months, you know what I mean? So you just don't know. So, if we end up with, miraculous, low positivity rate, maybe we do go back in. Think you just don't know. So at least if we have that touch point, just to say, hey, what's everyone feeling? That way we can, make the move to that next month's meeting. But
So I think that's a great idea. Chris, could we please add that to our agenda moving forward for now? Thank you. Tim, we appreciate you, and we want you to go to bed.
My pleasure. And thank you guys. Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye. All right. Next is we have Ron's report. And Ron, before you say anything, I want to say thank you to you and to the senior leadership team for acting so quickly when the state of New Hampshire and the NHDHHS came out and said that we could lower quarantine from 14 days to 10 days. Chris, Dr. Ryan, Ron, anyone else that was involved, you all acted so quickly on changing that for us. And I think I can speak for all of the parents. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Melissa. Yeah, there's a group that always gets together when we get this information. We try to communicate and do it in a way that preserves the privacy of individuals, and sometimes the message gets lost. So if I did not convey some of the information to any of our grade level people that have been going through this in-person to remote learning platforms due to COVID outbreaks, I apologize. We're trying to give the message, give you the information that you need to keep you and your family safe. So I appreciate it, and I was glad to hear that we can move it from 14 to 10 days. We want to get our students back in school. We want to get our staff back into the building and keep the learning going. So thanks, Melissa. I appreciate it. I did update you with any changes in our enrollment, both in person and remotely, in my board report. I was glad to hear. I've been corresponding with Michael Diaz, who's a high school student going for an Eagle Scout project. And He's extremely excited to get started this winter and working in our trails and our outdoor classroom to kind of revamp it and put up signs. So I'm really pleased with that. The other aspect, I'm so used to adding updates from enrichment and those types of things, and a lot of that is on hold. But I did find a great way to update our school board and our community, which is gratitude for everybody involved with what's going on at Swayze. Because of the challenges, students and staff have had to transition to remote learning and to our in-person protocols for learning, and to make it happen required efforts from everybody involved. I'd like to thank the community for the efforts being made to run the school. Students and families have shown great patience and efforts to regarding our safety protocols, supporting learning that's taking place in homes. I am kind of reading from my report, but I just think it's really important to kind of go over it. There's been so many people involved with all this. The staff have really learned to transition when faced with cases of COVID. They're making learning enjoyable regardless of the platform, which is what Swayze has always done. And they demonstrate what it's like to be a caring educator during the pandemic. Our teachers, our paraprofessionals, our office staff, the SAU central office team, the school board, the town of Brentwood, our facilities director, food service, bus driver, specialists, office staff. There's so many teams to name, and I'm going to miss people. But I want to thank every individual. And although much of what makes Swayze special has changed, what remains is the love. So thank you, everybody. I want to say that every time I get a chance publicly to thank everybody involved. I don't usually name specific names, but kudos out to our school nurse, Rebecca Doucette. She has learned so much this year. She has taught us so much this year, and her efforts and energy is supporting everybody, students, staff, families. So it's much appreciated. Just moving on, we're still in the process of hiring a new speech teacher. I know this has been a long time coming, but I feel like we're getting closer in this process. But it has been a challenge because looking for someone throughout the fall is a challenge, not only through a pandemic, but people are working. So we are doing our best also to come up with other methods of providing speech services, even if we don't have someone to hire right this moment, that we can supplement or reimburse for those people that are not getting those speech services. So it is something we're working on. I just wanted to update the board on that. As the board knows, Swayze students and staff have an early release every 3 weeks. It's part of the memorandum that was negotiated, and today was the first of a few of those early release days in which the staff use it in a way to do all this extremely important planning that needs to happen to make remote or in-person school continue in a quality way. So they appreciate the time. I appreciate the time for them. A quick announcement about Alma. Alma is our newest report card. All students in kindergarten through 3rd grade will be getting a competency-based report card. And to explain that, Katie Gallo, our curriculum coordinator, and myself will be holding at least 1 up to 2 parent meetings, Zoom meetings, you can call them a webinar, to kind of go over not only Alma and what they'll see on the report card, but also to talk a little bit about the difference between competency-based reporting and what they've seen in the past, whether it be standards-based or whether it be, you know, your typical A, B, C grades that you see on a report card. That it does take some understanding of what we're trying to do and accomplish as far as what we report out to parents. So I'm looking forward to having those conversations later in January. And speaking of parents, I do plan on sending a survey out to parents regarding remote and in-person platform for learning. it's a challenging time right now with the number of cases. We're in and out with quarantine. But more than anything, I want to just gather some information. I know parents are interested in understanding what's next for our students. You know, if we chose a remote platform, what is the opportunity to have our student return to Swayze School? So I don't have anything to promise right now, except for I want to find out what families are thinking and what they're interested in doing. So what I would like to do is gather that information, bring it to the school board so we can at least have a conversation about possibilities. And again, it's really important for me to hear what's going on with these families and what they're thinking. Last, besides thanking those retirees, which we've already done, I want to continue to celebrate these teachers for the work they're done, and all the teachers that are doing important things at our school. We did shift to, we've been doing for in-person staff and students, we've been doing, we did paper screenings all fall, but we transitioned to an online platform, not only for families to fill out a screener for having students enter the building, but for our staff as well. It's worked out beautifully. So we're not filling out papers, we're not passing in papers, and we're able to collect those and save those digitally, which is extremely important. So that's it from me, but I appreciate it. And that's my report.
Thank you, Ron. I do have a question and a comment, please. And the first one is regarding the Alma report card. When you and Katie go ahead and do those Zoom meetings, would you mind sending the link to the board members, because we don't all necessarily have younger children and we could just hop on and learn about it as well at the same time?
You
Awesome.
bet.
Thank you. And I just want to reiterate what you just stated about the survey. So you will be surveying the parents to find out who would like to continue to be remote or possibly in person. I know that is something that was mentioned when we started back in September. I just want to reiterate, and I know you stated this as well, but it is a fluid situation. We are going into cold and flu seasons right now. We have a spike in COVID cases. We can't make any promises. You know, the survey is just that, it's a survey to kind of get a feel for where we're at. Of course, we want to accommodate everyone and make everyone happy. We'll do the best that we can. But we need to be able to make sure that we can ensure the social distancing and the safety of the staff and the students.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what we need to preserve, because the guidelines are important. So we have that in mind. Thank you.
And by the way, when you mentioned, you know, you apologize for, you know, getting information out to people, whether it was quarantine or not or whatever in general. Ron, you're doing a great job. You and everyone else, you're managing a lot, and you and all of us who are just doing the best that we can, right? Don't apologize. You're doing a great job.
No, thanks.
Does anyone else have anything for Ron right now?
Yeah, Ron.
Go ahead. No, it's all right, Allison. Go ahead. I'll ask my question after you.
Ron, I had a quick question about the report cards or the reporting system. Will this fall, like, so historically K through 3 had one reporting system, and then when you got to 4 and 5, they got the sort of grade-based reporting system. Will this follow them all the way up, or will 4 and 5 still stay with the grade reporting?
No, the plan is for all grades in the elementary to transition to this competency-based model. They're already using a lot of this for reporting out, not so much for the report card, but for the conversations we have around competency-based conversation about students making progress. We're really hoping to transition to something about, you know, not earning, but what we're learning. I mean, it's kind of easy for us to remember that the report is just one way for us to communicate to parents. That's all it is a report card. So, and it's a piece of paper. So I think you get a lot of information from a lot of things, but that's a long answer to your question, which is yes, 4th and 5th grade would transition to competency-based as well.
Okay. Will there be opportunity? I just, you know, I hear what you're saying and I understand conceptually the value of the competency based. I think what I'm seeing, at least in my own child, that it's so unclear to them what that means that it no longer like it sort of takes, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. But like an A and a B is really clear, right? They understand that even at a very young age. And it's like, okay, I can do better or I can do this. Whereas, you know, I have a conversation, you know, with my child on a regular basis, what a PR means or what a D means or what a this means, or like really very, very difficult to understand concepts for them. Yep. That I think has, you know, I personally as a parent loved the transition that I saw in my own kids when they moved to A and Bs, because it became just like a real self-awareness about sort of what work does for you when you study and you do things that I see like get sort of taken away in the competency-based feedback to them. I guess I would love for there to be a conversation about it at some point.
I think we're going to have some parent forums. I know Chris and Esther put those together last year, and that's something that's also in the works that Chris will be doing to kind of talk to some parents, invite them to give this type of input. I understand traditional grading is what we've always had, and it's hard to contemplate what it means. Now, to me, you say you got an A. Yeah, A is great, but what if you're getting a C? Why am I getting a C? How about kids that do super duper work but had a challenge getting it in on time? They still learn the same thing, but they don't get an A. So they've only learned a B. No, they've learned it all. So that's the challenges that we're trying to get rid of. With Alma and with our competency base, not only do you get your letters like proficient or developing, but you also get check marks on I can do this, I can do that. So these are statements that are specific to learning targets. It's not just a general letter for math. You know, it talks about specifics in math, in ELA. So that's the goal. And I know that transition from a letter grade into averaging reports and tests to getting a grade is different. So that's, I think we started with what has been developmentally most appropriate with K and 1, where most of it has been standards based too, where giving them an A or B for those types of activities isn't even appropriate. So I think there's a lot of conversation to have to transition. I think this is the direction we need to go in. I believe in it. So I'm looking forward to those conversations too, and learning more about it.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yep. And
when you transition,
Scott?
I'm sorry. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, just because of the dizzying amount of emails that come through sometimes with who's in quarantine and who's not. Right now at Swayze, we have the whole 4th and 5th grade? No?
No, 4th grade came back today.
Okay.
5th grade is out until next Monday. They return on Monday, the 14th of December.
Okay. And that was the entire 5th grade, correct? All in person?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And so they should be quarantining. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And we sent something out last night to kind of try to be as specific as possible about the situation at school. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to be specific without being identifiable for what's happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. I have another thing. I don't know if it falls under new business, but I don't know, Melissa. It's in regards to donations to the school.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I just
Sure.
want to one question, and then we'll go on to that, Scott. This particular report card, I know you said that there would be Zoom meetings to educate us, Ron. I'm sorry, I missed it. When did you say this was being put into action?
When is the report card coming out?
the Alma, or are we already utilizing it?
Well, we did last year, K to 2. So all of our students that were with us last year in grades 1, 2, and 3 have already seen it last year. Everyone got a narrative at the end of the year, but this came out in January of last year for all of our current first, second, and third grade students. They got it when they were in K1 and 2.
Okay, so I want to ask, if I may, a quick question of Allison. So it sounds to me like we've already been exposed to this report card, but I don't know how great it is to survey anyone at this point because it's been such a unique year. But I want to throw it out there to Allison, the board. So I want to support you, Ron, but I feel very strongly too, if a board member is having questions, I want to honor that and see it through. So what I'm thinking is at some point, especially after the parents are educated on Zoom, and I don't know whether this should be this year or next year after a couple of terms, should we survey the parents to see how they're feeling about this report card and then revisit it on a board agenda? And is that something that you would be looking for, Allison?
I mean, Chris and I had a couple of conversations about this. And, you know, I think that it's really not fair. I mean, as a parent, I did not care for the report card that came out last January, but then, you know, the district never got a chance to make the changes because we didn't get report cards again. So, you know, my feeling is that, you know, it's not, I would like to see what the changes are. And I think that it's still I mean, Chris and Ron, it's still an iterative process, right? That it hasn't really been fully finalized yet. So yeah, I mean, I would like to know how parents feel about it.
So we did survey parents last year after January, after it went out. And we took all the feedback, and that's how we made the necessary changes for this year. So the work studies component, the cares component about how students have those work study habits, that is part of this year's reporting system. So that is actually part of the competencies. We narrowed down a lot of our competencies towards power standards. So it reduced it, and we changed the language to make it much more friendly for parents so that they understood what we were actually assessing for each student. So we did that in every single town, and we made all of those changes with supports from curriculum coordinators and the principals this summer. And we are constantly making those changes. And as Ron said, I hosted a meeting tonight, and that's what my meeting next Monday will be, is to get more feedback before we put it out in January from parents from all of our SAU. Competency-based education is not going to go away in SAU 16. It's the cornerstone of our portrait of a graduate and how we're building upon other things that we'll report out at the next joint board meeting. But I've had conversations with Allison on a direction and how we can have more conversations. So we've asked, you know, each school talk about it, what it means at Brentwood. And I think that's what Ron is going to establish with Ms. Gallo is why are we using it and what does it look like from our parents to get there? Because our ultimate goal is to get back to Allison's point, student-led conferences and student-led. So they're actually telling you what they're learning in school. And, you know, it's not just a report card, it's actually the student reporting out, hey mom, hey dad, this is what I've learned and here's why, and here's how I can demonstrate it to you. That's the powerful piece over an A or B or C. So that's the direction we're heading, and competency-based education and reporting is an avenue or a path to get there.
I hear what you're saying, and I understand where you're going. Just from the other side of it, and I'm not saying I object with the competency-based grading. I've heard great explanations from Bill Furbish. You know, if, for example, if I don't know, you have a pilot, or you know, like they need to hit these competencies, right? They need to land the plane, etc. I understand that. You don't want them to pass with a C but not be able to land the plane. Like, I totally get that. I just know, and this is speaking as the role of a parent, I don't know, you know, if they did a unit in poetry and English and my kid dropped from an A to a B, like for me, I feel like it's telltale my kid didn't do so good in poetry. Like for me as an outsider looking in, but change is hard, right? And I have to get used to it. I've always seen the ABC system. That's what I grew up with. It's hard for me too, because I look at it like, we know what units they're covering, and if they kind of take a little bit of a dive in their grades or a nosedive, I feel like they didn't really get that unit. But I understand where you're coming from. I just want to make sure that the board is comfortable, that's all.
I think
I would, oh, go ahead.
just a quick thought for myself, you know, the idea of, you know, the kids not exactly knowing, you know, how they're graded, and for the parents not, you know, for it not to be a smooth transition, and then coming from the old school, like we all did growing up, A, B, C, D, F, right? And we knew where we were, and our report card came home, and it was a pretty clear situation in so many ways. So like internally, it makes me almost recoil and freak out. But I've talked about this same word for 3 years, the word innovative, and, you know, not robust. That's other people's words sometimes, but innovative. And if at the end of the day, after all of this is done, we can step back and look at Swayze and say that the grading system that, you know, has been implemented is innovative. And this is something that is, you know, the future and really can make sense to us. And then we come up with key points on how people can actually understand it. And we, you know, where maybe we're sending out, instead of surveying, you know, everybody, targeting certain parents, certain, you know, people, grabbing them in the parking lot. Well, you can't grab anybody nowadays, but, you know, waving somebody down and hollering from 12 feet away, you know, what do you think? You know, trying to get feedback from people who might not always give us feedback would be, you know, really awesome to have. But if there's an innovative grading system, you know, it should be at Swayze first. And I believe that. And I think that it's just the method of communication and getting everybody on the same page as quick as possible. And then where do they go? Is there a website, a link we just send out to every parent, you know, bomb you with the link until the point where they can go on there and they can get a grasp when they look at what's going on with their kids.
So first, I thank you to everybody. Allison, I want you to know that you're definitely being heard. Everyone at the table is being heard. And I just want to say that if you're still not feeling comfortable the next meeting or the one after that, I would ask as a board that we do put it on the agenda just to discuss it further, just to honor her. Just like if Ron was uncomfortable with something, we would definitely put it on the agenda to honor him too.
And it's not, Melissa, it's not that I'm uncomfortable. I'm totally open to, I just, you know, I do think, Thad, I hear you in innovative. I guess my struggle is I don't want to be innovative and lose track of what's best for kids, and what works best for them. I actually don't care if we're innovative, if we have the best, you know, education and programs for our kids. You know, innovative is great when it adds value. And so I guess like that's my thing when I've been listening, and this isn't related to Swayze. We've been, you know, Chris, you know, hearing about it across, you know, in all of the joint board meetings for several years, and I am fully on board with competency-based learning. I, you know, very much value that. It's, I guess, in the practice of the competency-based reporting that I am struggling with, and I see is currently not necessarily like in sort of the best, I'm not seeing it add value to children yet, and that is the only concern.
It's almost like you need to see a translation, like an input output, like, you know, yeah, it's great to see all of these competencies, but there needs to be some type of translation in language to the kids that are actually getting the grade to say, yeah, I understand what you're saying, Allison. I think that's what you're trying to say. Yeah. Yeah.
But I look forward to seeing the report card, and it's not just a report card. I mean, the report card's a report card. It's you know, how it's being used in the classroom too.
My mom hat here, not my board hat. I feel like some of my kids, I'd like to see the competency report card, and then I feel like some of my kids do better with the ABC, you know? So, yeah. But, all right. So let's move on right now to general correspondence. And Scott, you said you had something?
Yeah, it's more of a, I was approached by someone who wants to remain anonymous. who is looking to give back to the school. And as far as how to do that, they definitely want to honor staff. And I was trying to go back to remember exactly how it would be handled in two different ways. I know in the past, if and correct me if I'm wrong, if someone were to give a monetary donation to the school, such as I believe the gentleman who's done it a couple of years in a row, I forgot his name and I apologize. We have to vote on that, correct?
Depends on the amount.
Okay. Okay. But if somebody, say, wanted to, give something individually to staff, I don't know, gift card, whatever, they can do that without having to come through the school board, correct?
There's a policy, Scott, and
And that's what I was trying to figure out.
there is a policy about gifts, and that would be considered a gift to
Okay.
them, that they cannot accept gifts and a donation specifically to the teachers. I'd have to review it, and we can definitely put it on. the next
So
agenda.
how, so like parent faculty group gives a gift card or used to give a gift card at the beginning of school with $25 Staples. We were doing that before. So is that maybe something they'd have to go through the parent faculty group with? I'm just trying to understand. We can get back to this individual.
Didn't we have like some like, or isn't it kind of out there, there's some unwritten rule that just in general, if we give gifts to staff or teachers, that like there's kind of like per person or something, it's almost like this $25 threshold. Not that it's written in stone, but isn't that something that's kind of out there or possibly in other states?
Like they've seen, I've seen where parents have gotten together and did a lunch for the staff. They provided pizza, I think, one time. So it was
Yeah, a couple of
similar.
times this year. Yep.
Yeah.
A couple of times this year. I think I would want to go and look at our policies. I don't have it open in front of me, but
Yeah.
I would definitely want to kind of read through, see exactly what it says about gifts. I mean, I understand the intent. The intent is to thank and to support, and I'm guessing that it's more staff, because if it was student, it would be like
definitely.
A proposal, and then we'd put it in the student activity fund. So
right.
No, and believe me, the conversation's important, but also I'm really grateful for anyone thinking about giving back, making the staff, supporting them. So it would be good to see what the difference between a PFG providing that teacher gift card to get some school stuff to something like this. So I think I need to look it up.
And we can
Chris,
certainly talk offline, Ron, too.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it would help if we knew too, like we don't have to know who it is, but it's so vague. Did they give you an idea of what they were looking to do?
Just a small token to the staff.
Okay. All right.
Not like millions of dollars, but which we would take, but probably, around $20 or so per staff, per person.
All right. So I'm going to put that, can we just say that Chris and Ron, you can go ahead and discuss that with Scott? Is that possible?
Yes.
And then at some point too, we brought this up years ago, and I didn't really follow through. Rebecca Dunham, she's the president of the Historical Society. She's so well versed in setting up different trust funds. And we had talked about, remember we had talked about setting something up years ago, right, for Swayze, for people, even if in their will they wanted to donate. I think I'm going to reach out to her again, if you're all okay with that, and see if we can put her on our agenda, maybe after the school district meeting or something like that in the spring, and see if she can help us kind of navigate that sort of thing, if you're all comfortable with that. Okay. And then I have a quick piece of correspondence as well. And then, Chris, I don't know if you want to shut off the chat function. I think that's fine. It's probably been on an hour or so, and then we'll address public input next. I'm looking at my cell phone, so I'm sorry, because that's where I have the information. And I'm going to ask anyone else that wants to pipe in and please help me out. That would be great. So one of our own, Georgia Merrill, started the Peach Project years ago. And I believe, as the story goes, she had seen someone that was hungry, and it was very disturbing to her, and she started the Peach Project, and she was probably maybe second grade when she started this. At this point in time, she's had over 120 children within the district. They have been involved. She's raised over $19,000 over the last 5 years. 100% of the profit goes to the New Hampshire to the New Hampshire Food Bank. So, you know, she's done different things in the past. She's put on musicals and plays. This year, what they're trying to do is something that's COVID friendly, and it sounds very cool. It's at the Brentwood Rec Fields. It's called a Holiday Stroll. It's a $5 admission fee. It is December 11th and 12th. So this Friday and Saturday from 5 to 9 p.m. Rain or snow, you know, there will be social distancing that will be required. Face masks are required. And what they've done is her mom has kind of created a very cool path through the rec fields. It's very neat. And you almost have like a booth, a little area that different families have volunteered to decorate. So I think some people, for example, have, I don't know, they're going to do like a Peanuts, you know, area with Snoopy and Charlie Brown and, you know, all different kinds of cool things like that. So it is at the rec fields. There's going to be food trucks, music, bake sale, silent auction. And I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. It sounded like there'd be like a bonfire and hot cocoa. So I just wanted to put it out there that this is a charity event by our own little Georgia Merrill. I think Georgia might be 6th grade at this point, but she's putting on this charity event this Friday and Saturday night. It sounds family friendly and great for all ages. So I just wanted to be sure to put that out there. And then next, do we have any other correspondence actually from the board? Or Chris, did you receive any?
I did not.
Okay. All right. Let's see. In the chat function, I have a comment from Kim Leo. Quarantine needs to really stay the 14-day point. It was only changed to make people not angry. I do want to throw out there, and Ron and Chris, please correct me if I'm wrong on this, but if any parent at any point in time is uncomfortable with their child returning at the 10-day mark, they're welcome to keep their child home for the 14 days. Is that correct?
Well, here's the thing. That does complicate the platform because it's not like their teacher would be teaching remotely. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's a hard question to answer, Melissa, because it kind of puts a student that's an in-person student in a remote situation when the teacher in the class is back in school. I'm just kind of putting that back.
So I've been there where I had a child that felt dizzy one morning and a little bit nauseous, and I'm just sharing a personal story, but because those symptoms fall under, right, COVID, Mrs. Doucette had no choice but to say, your child needs to go and get a COVID test, right? Or whatever, right? I'm assuming maybe we had to quarantine if we didn't do that. So my child missed a couple of days of school. So it was no different than any sick day that we had in the past. Does that sound accurate, that that is what would happen if they just missed the 4 days?
Yes, that situation sounds different than what was asked before though, which is if I want to stay out longer than the school is ready to bring back. I mean, it's one situation is comfortability, and the other one is showing symptoms. So I think our teachers have done a great job of when students have to go home, even if they're an in-person student, because of needing to get a COVID test or because they're having symptoms. Our teachers have sent work home, provided some asynchronous work through Seesaw, those types of things they accommodate when necessary. So our teachers have done a great job of doing that.
So Melissa, I would just say that we've followed the recommendations from Department of Health and Human Services and CDC since the beginning when it was 14, and now we're following it by 10. So if a parent were to keep them home, it would be considered an absence. So however long they keep them home, they would not have access to the remote learning as the other kids did when they came back. So we would have to do, paperwork, or as you said in the past, it would be sick days, and how do they make up that work? So again, our recommendation is what we're following the CDC and Department of Health and Human Services, and it's at 10 days. So that's what we'll continue to follow moving forward.
I guess my point is we wouldn't penalize anybody if they don't feel comfortable sending their child back. That's all.
No.
All right. And then let's see. We have Liz Faria is asking how many students are in person and how many are remote. Ron gave us a report as of December 7th. As of December 7th, 119 students are remote, 155 students are in person, and that equals a total of 274 students at Swayze. And then it looks like Kim Leo had mentioned, let me see. Oh, I think this is different. The system is in place and is SAU wide for the grades. I believe this was regarding the competency-based grading. And then Brandon Myers to all panelists. I may be able to secure some secondhand Epson interactive projectors and help with installation if Swayze is interested to help offset technology needs. And he's given his email. I work for an audio-visual company and would be interested in helping out if the need is there. This would be a donation as well. Wow. First, thank you very, very much, right? That's awesome. So we have the email on there. Ron, would it be all right if we asked you to follow up with this?
Yes, I'm writing his email down right now.
Thank you so very much. We really appreciate it. We're really excited, actually. Thank you very, very much. All right. And then our next meeting date is January 2nd, 2021. And at this point, we do need to go into non-public in accordance with, oh, sorry.
No, that's a typo, because that would be a Saturday. And I do love seeing all of you, but I don't know if you want to hang out on Saturday weekends. So it's January 4th. So I just want to make sure that typo is correct. It's January 4th is our next scheduled meeting.
Ooh, that hurts, Chris. All right, January 4th, it is. All right. So we do need to go into non-public, as I mentioned earlier, under Chapter 91A, :3, Roman numeral 2E. And if I could please have a motion from the board to do that, I would appreciate that. And in the meantime, I would ask that anyone that is not a panelist, thank you so much for being a part of our meeting tonight. We're so appreciative that so many people are involved. We would just ask that you please exit the call so that we can go into non-public. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Allison has made a motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Thad. And we'll do a roll call. Brian?
Aye.
Allison?
Aye.
Thad?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Okay. I'm an aye as well. Let's see how we're doing. Public session. So motion to exit our public session, please.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Thad.
I'll second.
Al second. Okay, roll call. Brian?
Aye.
Allison?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Thad?
Aye.
All right. Good night, guys. I'll see you later.
Bye all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.